Get your filthy hands off my wheel before I break them. Officer Harlan yanked open Nora Blake's door, metal screeching as he dragged the 40-something woman onto the gravel shoulder. Deputy Cole shoved her forward, palm grinding into the back of her neck. "Women like you don't belong in cars like this!" Harlan's taser crackled louder than the rushing traffic. "Don't look away," he hissed, gripping her chin. "I want you to remember who owns this road." His fist cocked back. But Nora's punch landed first, sharp and explosive, freezing every onlooker. None of them realized they just swung on a Delta Force commander. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you're watching from, and hit subscribe. Tomorrow's story is one you won't want to miss. Commander Nora Blake guided her SUV down a winding Georgia highway, late-day sunlight stretching shadows between the pine trees. Visiting her mother usually brought rare peace after years of classified deployments. But today, something felt wrong. In her rearview mirror, 2 patrol cruisers had tailed her for 15 minutes, hanging back, just enough to make their presence a warning instead of a coincidence. Her training kicked in. She kept a steady speed, posture relaxed but ready, hands set at 10 and 2. The cruiser suddenly surged forward, splitting apart as engines roared through the humid air. One car darted ahead, the other boxed her in from behind. The lead cruiser swerved abruptly, forcing her to brake hard. Her SUV skidded to the shoulder, gravel popping under the tires. "Keep your hands where we can see them," Officer Harlan's voice boomed through a megaphone. He stepped from the lead car, hand already resting on his holster. Deputy Cole advanced from the passenger side, sneer carved deep. Nora lowered her window 3 inches, enough to speak, still giving herself a barrier. "Is there a problem, officers?" Harlan's face flushed a mottled red as he stormed toward the half-open window. "When a woman like you drives something this expensive, it's stolen," he spat. "Get out before we drag you out." Nora's jaw tightened, but her voice stayed level. "This is my vehicle. I have registration." "Did I ask you to talk?" Harlan roared. He grabbed the handle and tore the door open. "Out, now!" Years of combat reflex screamed at Nora to strike. But she forced herself to move with slow, deliberate control. She stepped out, hands slightly raised, her senses cataloging everything. Harlan's aggressive stance, Cole hovering behind, the third deputy climbing from the backup car. "Face the vehicle! Legs apart!" Harlan barked. He slammed a hand on her shoulder, shoving her chest first into the SUV. The impact knocked air from her lungs. "This is unnecessary," she said calmly. "I'm an Army officer." Cole's knee slammed her ribs, cutting off words. "Shut your mouth," he snapped. "People like you always have excuses." The search was a performance of cruelty, hands digging into bruises, lingering where they had no right. Each touch calculated to humiliate more than discover. Nora's combat instincts flared with every violation. But she stayed still, mapping their positions, distances, weaknesses. "Not so tough now, huh?" Harlan twisted her arm up between her shoulder blades until pain shot hot and sharp. "Time you learned some respect." The third deputy circled in front, cracking his knuckles like a threat. "Types like this never understand respect until you beat it into them," he muttered, stepping closer. Cold metal pressed against Nora's neck, the taser. Harlan leaned in, breath hot and sour. "Maybe this will help the lesson stick." "You really don't want to do that," she said softly, voice edged with unshakable certainty. Harlan laughed. "Oh yeah! Watch me." The taser snapped to life. In that heartbeat, Everything shifted. Before the probes touched skin, Nora moved. Her elbow slammed back, crushing into Harlan's solar plexus. As he folded, she pivoted, using his momentum to smash his face into the SUV hood. Cole lunged for his baton. Nora dropped low, sweeping his legs with surgical precision, sending him crashing onto the asphalt. The third deputy charged, fist swinging wild. She caught his arm, redirected his weight, and flipped him over her hip. He slammed down hard, breath exploding from his lungs in a wheeze. Harlan staggered up, blood streaking his nose. He grabbed for his sidearm, but Nora was faster. 2 strikes, one to his wrist, one to his knee, sent him howling, weapon skittering across the pavement. Cole scrambled behind her, trying a sloppy chokehold. Nora flowed with practiced efficiency, seizing his arm and dropping forward. He flew over her shoulder, slamming onto the hood hard enough to dent the metal deeply. The third deputy clawed upright, fear bright in his eyes, but pride pushed him forward anyway. He rushed her again. Nora met his charge with controlled violence. Combination strikes, folding him beside his partners. In under 30 seconds, all 3 officers lay groaning on the ground. Not one had landed a meaningful blow. Nora straightened, breathing even, as distant sirens began to wail across the Georgia pines. She didn't run, didn't hide. She simply stood there, shoulders squared, knowing this fight had only opened the first front of a longer, uglier war she never asked for. The cry of sirens grew louder, but her posture remained immovable, military discipline in every line. Harlan pushed to his knees, spit and blood dripping. "You're gonna regret this," he rasped. "No," Nora said quietly, watching the first backup units crest the horizon. "I'm not the one who's going to regret today." The sinking sun painted the sky, orange and red, turning the highway into a battlefield. What had been a peaceful drive home was now the opening engagement of something far bigger, drawing new players toward the gravel shoulder where she waited, ready for whatever came next. Lieutenant Barrow's cruiser screeched to a halt, headlights slicing through the thickening dusk. The door slammed so hard younger officers flinched. Barrow stepped out like a thunderhead, face flushed with rage. "What in God's name happened here?" he roared, eyes sweeping his wounded men before locking on Nora, still standing tall. Harlan wheezed, pointing. She jumped us, Lieutenant. Routine stop turned ambush. Routine?" Nora's voice cut clean through the air. "You dragged me from my car without cause, assaulted me, then tried to tase me." Barrow stormed closer, knuckles white around his baton. "Shut your mouth," he barked. "I've got 3 good officers down because of you." "Good officers don't brutalize civilians," Nora answered evenly. The baton whistled toward her head. Without warning. Most people would have never seen it coming. But she watched the tension in his shoulder, the tiny shift in his stance. She slipped inside the swing, deflecting with her forearm, staying just beyond his reach as the baton cut empty air. Barrow snarled, launching a flurry of wild strikes. Each one missed as Nora moved with ruthless efficiency, refusing to counterattack. She simply wasn't where his weapon tried to be. No wasted motion. "Stand still!" Barrow screamed, face reddening with every failure. "Like your boys made me stand still," Nora answered calmly, redirecting another blow. "While they kicked me, searched me, threatened me on the side of this road." A small crowd had gathered along the shoulder. Phones glowed in the fading light as bystanders recorded everything. Barrow noticed and snapped. "Get those phones. Confiscate every device. This is an active crime scene." Backup officers glanced between the witnesses and Nora, but hesitation rooted their feet. They'd seen her dismantle 3 colleagues. None wanted to be next. Barrow swung again, this time targeting her knees in desperation. Nora caught the baton mid-swing. For a breath, they were locked, his raw, red-faced rage against her disciplined strength. Then she twisted, turning his momentum. He stumbled forward as the baton clattered away. She could have finished him right there, 1 strike to the back of his skull, 1 to his kidney. Instead, she stepped away, hands slightly raised. "That's enough, Lieutenant. We both know this stop was illegal." "Illegal?" Barrow straightened, trying to hide his ragged breathing. "Only crime here is assaulting officers." He jabbed a finger toward Nori. "Take her down, now." The backup officers exchanged uneasy looks, fear warring with training. "I won't resist," Nora said, keeping her hands visible. "But everyone here knows what really happened." Finally, 2 deputies approached, movements rigid with tension. They grabbed her arms harder than necessary and snapped cuffs shut. "You're under arrest for assaulting officers, resisting arrest, and attempted murder." Barrow spat, retrieving his baton like a trophy. He leaned close, voice dropping. "You have no idea what you just started." As they walked her to a cruiser, Nora watched Barrow directing his men. "Lock it all down. Secure the scene," he ordered. "I want every phone, every camera, and someone figure out what happened to the dash cam." The ride to county headquarters felt tight, air thick with hostility. From the back seat, Nora watched through the cage partition as the officers up front kept checking the mirror, nervous and jittery. At the station, processing became a slow-motion punishment. Every step dragged, fingerprints, photos, searches, each deliberately stretched to amplify discomfort and humiliation. Nora endured it with quiet focus, storing details like evidence. She noticed which officers couldn't meet her eyes, which shifted uneasily when Barrow walked by, and which followed him like unquestioning shadows. Through the booking window, she watched him orchestrate a cover-up from his office. Officers rotated in and out, carrying assignments. One left with dash cam hard drives. Another hunched over a computer, clearly drafting a fiction. "Systems glitching again," someone announced loudly. "Might lose some files tonight." Barrow's smile was thin and cold. "These things happen," he said. "Technology's never reliable." They placed Nora in a holding cell away from other inmates. Concrete walls sweating cold, metal bench unforgiving against her spine. She sat with perfect posture, training letting her find stillness in discomfort. She'd survived worse in hostile deserts with no rules, no cameras, no legal recourse. Heavy footsteps approached, echoing down the corridor. Barrow appeared at the bars. Smugness settled back over his face. He tapped his baton idly. "No judge in this county will buy your story," he said. "Your word against 3 respected officers. And now look at you," he added, "just another violent criminal in a cage." Fluorescent lights hummed overhead as 2 officers led Nora from the cell later, muscles aching from the bench, but posture still straight. "Processing for release hearing," one muttered, refusing to meet her gaze. The booking sergeant typed slowly at his terminal, milking every keystroke. Barrow burst through the door, carrying a thick folder, satisfaction written everywhere. "You're not going anywhere yet," he said, Got some paperwork to file. He slapped the folder down, spreading out sheets. 3 counts of assault on officers, resisting arrest, and my personal favorite, he held up the last form dramatically, attempted murder. That's ridiculous, Nora said quietly, noting several officers nearby shift uneasily. Is it? Barrow asked, voice dripping false concern. Dawson and Cole say otherwise. They claim you exploded into violence during a routine stop, used military-style attacks that could have killed them. They're in the hospital right now, thanks to you, he added, milking every word. I want my phone call, Nora said, and I'm requesting an attorney. Of course, Barrow replied with a harsh laugh. We're big on proper procedure around here, unlike some people who think they can swing on cops. The call was brief. Less than an hour later, attorney Dana Ruiz strode through the station doors, heels clicking on linoleum. Her sharp gaze took in everything, the body language, hurried roster changes, Barrow lurking. I'm representing Commander Blake, Dana announced, voice carrying. I want every charge sheet and incident report. Now, Barrow tried to stare her down. We're still processing, he said. These things take time. Fascinating, Dana replied dryly, especially since you've already fed the press. A story. She turned to Nora, speaking clearly. This county has a habit of sheltering abusive officers. 8 similar cases buried in 12 months. But they've never tried to frame someone with your credentials. Dashcam footage will clear this, Nora said. Dana's smile thinned. Let me guess. Technical malfunction. Barrow cut in. Real shame. Equipment failed. But we have 3 sworn statements about her unprovoked attack. 3 identical statements, I'm sure, Dana replied. We'll be requesting federal oversight. The civil rights violations pattern in this department is impossible to ignore. While Dana argued bail conditions with the magistrate and Barrow, Nora watched station operations. She identified who handled evidence, who controlled computer access, who seemed rattled by federal talk, and who doubled down behind Barrow. Through the front windows, news vans gathered. A reporter already stood outside doing a live hit, gesturing toward the building. On the break room TV, a local anchor read a statement about a dangerous, unstable veteran. They're spinning hard, Dana muttered, returning with release papers. But they slipped, report timestamps, missing footage, charge escalation. It screams coordination. We can make that work for us. Bail took another 2 hours. Every signature was scrutinized, every page double-checked, like they hoped she'd lose patience and explode. Barrow hovered nearby, silent intimidation in uniform. Finally, Nora stepped into harsh sunlight. Cameras swung toward her instantly. Dana stepped between them. No comments. Direct all questions to my office. On the drive home, every passing patrol car slowed, officers staring as if she were a zoo exhibit. They'll try to isolate you, Dana said. Make you feel watched, hunted. Don't let them. Nora's mother's neighborhood buzzed strangely. Neighbors clustered in driveways, conversations dying as Nora's SUV rolled by. A news van idled at the corner, reporter practically vibrating. I'll get my team moving on the case, Dana said, parking. We have to move before more evidence disappears. Are you sure about staying here? This is my home, Nora replied simply. I'm not running. Dana nodded. Call me if they try anything. And Commander, be careful. Men like Barrow are most dangerous when they're scared. Nora walked the path to her door, aware of cameras and curtains. Her phone buzzed nonstop. News alerts, social media mentions, numbers she didn't recognize. The local station's site already blared. Veteran attacks officers during stop. Inside, the house felt unnaturally quiet. The silence was a brief refuge from the station's noise. She set her phone face down on the counter as another alert flashed. Police union demands maximum charges. They wanted her overwhelmed, isolated, scared. They didn't understand her. She'd faced worse odds in places without courts or cameras. Here, at least, there was a broken system that could still be forced to work. She caught her reflection in the kitchen window, seeing the soldier who'd survived everything thrown at her. She wouldn't be intimidated, not by Barrow, his corrupt department, or their media machine built on lies. They'd picked her thinking she was vulnerable. They'd soon learn they chose someone who knew how to fight back and document every blow. Morning came heavy and gray as Nora backed from her driveway. The vans were gone, but a patrol car sat 2 blocks away, poorly hidden behind a neighbor's oak. They weren't even pretending anymore. Her phone buzzed, text from Dana. "Meet ASAP. Federal contact will hear us." Nora pulled onto the main road, spotting another cruiser sliding out 3 turns back. Their surveillance was getting sloppy, an unmistakable sign of desperation. Downtown, a concrete parking garage near Dana's office loomed ahead. She chose the 3rd level, away from scattered cars. As she parked, instincts flared. Boots echoing, movement reflected in windows, vehicles oddly positioned near the exit ramp. She stepped out, keys in hand. "I know you're here," she called, voice carrying across concrete. "Let's skip the theatrics." 4 deputies emerged from behind pillars. She recognized Deputy Sloan from booking, face tight with nerves. Others older, harder, batons ready. "Lieutenant says you might cause problems," the largest deputy growled, tapping his baton. "Told us to make sure you understand how things work around here." Another circled left. "Accidents happen in garages, especially before federal meetings." Nora stayed still, calculating angles, distances, cover. Their formation was amateur, 2 spread out, more focused on blocking exits than coordinating attacks. "Last chance to walk away," she said, knowing exactly how they'd respond. Sloan rushed first, overeager. His baton swing was wide, telegraphed from a mile away. Nora stepped inside his reach, redirecting his momentum into a parked sedan. Metal crunched as he bounced off the door. The others surged together without real coordination. Nora moved between pillars, using concrete as shield and weapon. A baton slammed into a column where her head had been. She twisted the shaft, yanking its owner forward. He stumbled into another deputy, both cursing as they collided. Nora seized the opening, disabling Sloan as he tried to stand. A precise strike to his knee dropped him, followed by a nerve chop to his shoulder. He collapsed, conscious but effectively removed from the fight. "Federal assault charges now," one deputy snarled, drawing a taser. "You're just making this worse." The weapon sparked as he aimed. Nora caught his wrist mid-motion. She redirected the taser toward his partner. Electrodes bit into the man's vest, and he crumpled, convulsing. Before the shooter recovered, she slammed his arm into a pillar, sending the taser skittering across concrete. The biggest deputy tried a bull rush, attempting to pin her to a car. Nora shifted, using his weight against him, hip throwing him across the rough floor. He rolled up, spitting blood, and charged again. This time she met him with his partner's fallen baton, rapid strikes to key pressure points. He collapsed, clutching a useless arm. The last deputy backed away, fumbling for his radio in shaking hands. Nora closed the distance in 2 steps, trapping his hand before he could press the mic. A wrist lock put him on his knees, pain freezing his breath. "Stay down," she ordered, "unless you want to explain how you dislocated your shoulder to the medics." Groans and ragged breathing filled the garage. Nora retrieved her phone, systematically documenting the scene. Weapons, positions, damaged vehicles, their failed ambush. She texted Dana. "Attempted assault in parking garage. 4 deputies down. Need cleanup." Sloan managed to speak through clenched teeth. "You don't get it. He'll kill us if we don't stop you." "Then you should have thought harder about who you work for," Nora replied, checking each man. No one was mortally injured, but none would be swinging batons soon. Footsteps echoed from below, civilians drawn by the noise. Someone's voice carried, "There's fighting up here. Send police." Nora neatly arranged dropped weapons for more photos, more evidence, more proof they were willing to stage violent ambushes to silence her before federal eyes. Distant sirens floated up the ramp as she walked calmly toward the exit, deputies groaning behind her. Soon the level would swarm with first responders and more of Barrow's people, scrambling to spin this disaster. She'd already taken what she needed: documentation, testimony, proof of their desperation. The garage shadows gave way to gray daylight. The sirens grew louder, converging from multiple directions like vultures circling a wounded animal. She pulled out her phone again, texting Dana about her delayed arrival. Fingers steady, she typed, as the wind carried the sound of approaching cruisers up through the concrete levels. Afternoon light slanted through Dana's office windows as Nora sat at the conference table. Photos and video stills from the garage sprawled between them, each image a small indictment of the morning's violence. "They're spinning this faster than I expected," Dana said, tapping a freshly printed article. "Look at this headline. Unstable veteran attacks officers in parking structure. They're painting you like you hunt cops for sport." Nora leaned forward, scanning lies and anonymous quotes, calling her a threat to public safety. "They move fast," she said. Dana nodded. "Barrow's smarter than he looks. Spent 2 hours with the DA this morning." "Let me guess," Nora said. "They're rushing charges." "Exactly," Dana confirmed. DA Marston calls it urgent public safety concern. They want your prosecution sealed and delivered before we expose their corruption. Nora stood, pacing past framed law degrees and civic plaques. "Those deputies were terrified this morning," she said. "Not just of me, of Barrow. One said Barrow would kill them if they failed." "Matches what I've heard," Dana replied, pulling another folder. 3 officers complained last year about being forced to falsify reports. All dismissed. Pattern of intimidation is clear as day. "We have to go higher," Nora said, stopping at the window. Pedestrians drifted along the sidewalk below, oblivious to the arat in their own department. "Federal oversight. I know someone at Justice, Michael Trent. He handles department-wide corruption investigations," Dana said, already reaching for her phone. "He's been searching for an opening into this county. Your case might be the wedge he needs." "Make the call," Nora said. "But once Barrow realizes we're going federal, he'll escalate." "He's already escalating," Dana answered, opening an email. "The emergency meeting with senior deputies. Closed door. No notes. Planning counterattacks." "My courthouse source says Barrow was raging," she added. "Kept ranting about containing you before you cause more damage. When one deputy suggested backing off, Barrow threatened the man's family." Nora absorbed it, mind already running contingency plans. "That kind of threat screams weakness," she said. "Real leaders don't bully their own people." "But wounded animals?" Dana cut in. "Those bite hardest." A knock interrupted them. Dana's assistant entered with a stack of papers. These just came from traffic court. Dana skimmed the pages, expression darkening. They're ticketing your car, Nora. Expired registration, broken equipment, missing plates. All fabricated, Dana said. They're building a paper trail, making you look like a chronic offender. Nora studied the citations. Petty intimidation. They're throwing everything, hoping something sticks. It's more calculated than that, Dana said, laying them out. Each violation gives them cause to stop you again. They're constructing future confrontations, legal excuses wrapped around their harassment. They're adapting, Nora said. Brute force failed this morning. Now, they're weaponizing bureaucracy, which is exactly why we need federal intervention, Dana replied. Trent can freeze these citations. Stop more from being filed. How long until he gets here? Nora asked. If I reach him today, maybe 48 hours, Dana answered. That's 2 full days for Barrow to escalate. We have to assume he'll try something bigger. I'll be ready, Nora said. They won't catch me off guard again. Dana hesitated, pulling one more document. Barrow's already filed a motion to revoke your bail. Claims you're a danger to his officers. Judge Carver's reviewing it now. Nora frowned. Carver, Marston's golf buddy? Every Sunday, Dana said grimly. This place is a closed loop. They protect and promote each other. Breaking that circle won't be simple. It never is, Nora replied, gathering her things. But every closed system has weak points. We'll find theirs. The drive home felt like moving through a trap. Every intersection, a potential ambush. No patrol cars followed this time, but tension stayed coiled. When she pulled into her driveway, the setting sun painted her house in deep amber. Citations fluttered on her front door like paper threats. She pulled them down one by one, examining their neat lies. Standing on the porch, she scanned the quiet street. Somewhere out there, Barrow plotted his next move, dragging more deputies into his corruption. What began as a traffic stop had grown into a larger war, about more than her survival. It was now about exposing an institution rotted from the inside, protecting a community still oblivious. Evening air cooled as darkness crept in. Nora stood motionless, citations in hand, feeling the weight of the fight ahead. Dismantling a corrupt system wouldn't be quick, but she'd overcome worse odds. Sunlight poured into Dana's downtown office later as Nora spread fresh printouts, photos, and video files across the table. Her morning encounter with Matthews and Ortiz had left dust on her jacket, but she ignored it. This is bolder than I expected, Dana said, studying stills from the patrol SUV attack. Attempted vehicular homicide in broad daylight. Barrow must be panicking. Nora nodded, queuing up footage from last night's bar confrontation. Listen again, she said, playing Riker's drunken bragging about Barrow and Judge Carver. The audio cut clearly through background noise. That's our missing link, Dana said. Proof corruption reaches past the department. A knock sounded. That should be our federal contact, Dana murmured. Investigator Michael Trent stepped in. Suit crisp, despite Georgia heat, folder thick under one arm, anger carefully banked behind his eyes. Commander Blake, he said, offering his hand. I've spent the morning reviewing your materials. I'm sorry it took an attempted killing to get full federal attention. Call me Nora, she replied, studying his expression. I've opened an official inquiry, Trent said, spreading his own documents. Your evidence is meticulous. Military-grade note-taking, multiple angles, clear chains of custody. He tapped photos of her original bruises from the roadside beating. "But the pattern is what alarms me most," he continued. "This isn't random misconduct. It's organized, systemic." Dana pulled more files on screen. "We've traced similar cases 5 years back, all touching Barrow or his subordinates. Always the same script," she said. "Black drivers, missing footage, matching reports, quiet dismissals." "Except this time," Nora added, "they targeted someone trained to fight and document." Trent nodded. "We hit the station this morning. Panic was immediate," he said. "Sudden vacation requests, shredders running non-stop until we pulled the plugs. And Commander, your stop wasn't random. Emails show they tracked your car for days. Barrow personally handpicked your assailants." "The roadside ambush today was sloppy," Trent said, replaying the footage. "They're unraveling, making careless moves." Nora replied, "Men like Barrow will torch everything before they surrender control." Dana's assistant rushed in with updates. Several deputies had walked off duty, refusing Barrow's increasingly deranged orders. Others were anonymously calling the federal hotline, finally willing to testify about years of abuse. "The thin blue wall is splitting," Trent said. "Once they realize federal indictments are real, sticking with Barrow becomes a liability." "He'll never accept that," Dana warned quietly, eyes still on the files. "Then we make every strike backfire," Nora said firmly. "Every threat becomes evidence. Every attempt to shut us up becomes proof of exactly what they've been hiding for years." They prepared for the preliminary hearing set for the following week. Dana organized statements from other victims. Trent stacked on federal charges. Nora mapped each confrontation, showing the escalating pattern of sanctioned violence. "One concern," Trent said as they wrapped, "Barrow still has loyalists inside. They're tracking where you go, who you meet, classic intimidation playbook, only sloppier than usual." "Let them watch," Nora answered. "Every illegal surveillance attempt is another civil rights count we can document." They finished with a clear strategy. Dana ran court, Trent expanded the probe, Nora stayed alert, gathering intel. "Stay sharp," Trent advised as they packed up. "Barrow personalizes everything. His power pyramid is collapsing, and he knows it." Nora glanced at the growing evidence boxes, each attack now another brick in their case. Dana walked Nora to the elevator. "We'll need you back tomorrow for deposition prep. My security team can escort you home." "I'll manage," Nora said. "They've already learned direct attacks don't end well." The elevator doors slid open. Metal walls reflected Nora's steady expression. Through the glass lobby doors, she spotted an unmarked Crown Vic idling across the intersection, occupants pretending badly not to be watching. Nora straightened her jacket, checking her phone's camera, still quietly recording. Let them stare, she thought. Let them see what real resolve looks like. Every minute wasted trailing her weakened their crumbling machine. The department's desperation was showing more openly with each passing hour. A hierarchy that had thrived on unchecked authority for decades was finally feeling real consequences. Nora intended to see that reckoning through. The wooden benches groaned with bodies as Nora stepped into the packed courtroom. Every seat taken, people standing along the back wall. Tension humming overhead, like fluorescent lights about to blow. News of federal involvement had drawn reporters, organizers, and residents who'd survived similar traffic stops. Dana walked beside Nora, briefcase heavy with proof. Trent sat at a separate table, federal authority giving the room weight. Across the aisle, Lieutenant Barrow and his departmental attorney wore practiced arrogance. Judge Ellis entered, and everyone rose. Unlike Judge Carver, who'd recused after his ties to Barrow surfaced, Ellis was known for independence. Her expression betrayed nothing as she scanned the morning motions. "We'll begin with the federal evidence," Judge Ellis said, nodding to Trent. He approached with a recorder and transcripts, demeanor crisp, unshakable. "Your Honor, during our review of missing dashcam material, we located backup audio from officer body mics. Department policy requires retention for 90 days. These were hidden in misclassified archives," Trent explained. Barrow shifted in his chair as Trent connected the audio system. His attorney leaned in, whispering frantically. "First file is from Deputy Harlan's microphone. Time-stamped to the initial stop," Trent said. The courtroom stilled. Harlan's voice crackled through the speakers. "Look at this one. Probably driving Daddy's ride. They're always flexing stuff they didn't earn. Time to reminder. Been too long since a good one." The slurs and jokes that followed drew audible gasps. The recording captured their footsteps, aggressive commands, and worst of all, their talk about using force long before any interaction with Nora even began. "Harlan, watch this. Gonna make her squirm," Cole replied. "Just avoid leaving marks where cameras catch 'em. You know, protocol." Dana rose. "Premeditation, Your Honor. They planned excessive force before any contact." The department lawyer objected, insisting the audio could be doctored. Judge Ellis cut him off. "The Federal Forensics Lab authenticated these files. We have continuous feeds from multiple devices," Trent added, calm and precise. He played another clip, the moment they ripped Nora from her car. The thuds of impact were unmistakable, accompanied by taunts about putting her in place and mocking her calm requests to de-escalate. The taser's electric snap echoed through the room, followed by their gleeful commentary. Several jurors flinched at the language and threats. Even Judge Ellis's carefully neutral expression tightened around the eyes. "The prosecution claims Commander Blake assaulted officers and resisted," Dana said. "These recordings demonstrate she defended herself against an orchestrated, bias-driven beating." Barrow's face darkened, fingers digging into the table edge. Trent presented more. Internal emails flagging high-yield, black motorists, sworn statements from officers who'd quit rather than falsify reports, logs showing systematic destruction of dashcam evidence whenever complaints surfaced. "Your Honor," the department lawyer tried again. "These recordings were acquired outside proper. They were obtained through standard federal procedures," Judge Ellis said sharply, "and reveal profoundly disturbing conduct by sworn officers." Nora watched Barrow closely. His mask of control was breaking. The image he'd curated for decades, strong, righteous leader, was melting under fluorescent lights and amplified audio from his own people. Judge Ellis reviewed the transcripts one more time. "Given this evidence, charges of assaulting officers and resisting arrest are dismissed. Commander Blake clearly acted in self-defense against excessive, unconstitutional force." The gallery exploded in whispers. Barrow shot upright. "This is garbage," he shouted. "She attacked my men. Yeah, we can't let these people—" "Lieutenant Barrow," Ellis snapped, "another outburst and you'll be held in contempt. Your language is revealing." Dana stepped forward. "Your Honor, considering the demonstrated civil rights violations, we move to dismiss all remaining counts against my client." "Motion granted," Ellis said instantly. "Additionally, this matter is referred to Justice's Civil Rights Division." The crowd buzzed with disbelief and relief. Years of fear and frustration finally had somewhere to go. Nora stayed composed, but for the first time since that highway, genuine relief slid into her chest. Barrow stormed out, slamming the swinging door, shoving past cameras. His lawyer followed, already looking like he regretted ever signing the retainer. "Commander," Judge Ellis said, turning to Nora, "I regret the ordeal you've endured. This court failed to protect you from abuse of authority." Nora nodded. "Thank you, Your Honor." After Ellis exited, supporters pressed around Nora and Dana, voices overlapping. Trent joined them, his usual hard expression softened. "This is step one," he murmured. "The federal case continues. More victims are lining up." "Good," Nora said. "The whole structure needs daylight." They moved through echoing corridors, cameras flashing, microphones thrust forward. Dana handled reporters with polished answers, while Nora kept walking toward the exit, refusing to give sound bites for anyone to twist. The midday sun hit like a cleansing wave when she stepped outside. For the first time since the stop, she felt weight lifting, not gone, but lighter. Momentum had shifted. On the courthouse steps, Nora watched residents gather, trading stories of their own encounters with Barrow's deputies. Each voice raised publicly drove another crack through the shield that had protected the department for years. Dana joined her. "Today's ruling opens doors for civil suits. Other victims now have precedent, real case law to lean on." Nora nodded, feeling the breeze and watching more neighbors arrive, faces no longer afraid. The department's power had always relied on isolation, making every target feel alone and crazy. That illusion was crumbling, replaced by anger, solidarity, and a clear shared memory of what they'd endured. That evening, the setting sun stretched across Nora's driveway as she pulled in. For the first time in weeks, her shoulders eased. The courthouse victory felt like a solid breach in Barrow's armor. She grabbed her jacket and briefcase, allowing herself the smallest smile. Inside, she kicked off her shoes, poured a glass of water, replaying Judge Ellis's words in her mind like a mantra. Validation was satisfying, but more importantly, it cleared a path for others to speak. Maybe the system could bend toward justice, even if it moved painfully slow. Her phone rang, her mother's number, but the voice belonged to their neighbor, Mrs. Green, trembling. "Nora, they're here. 4 patrol cars. They're in your mama's house right now." The glass slipped from Nora's fingers, shattering across the tile. "How? What? Who?" "Sheriff's Department," Mrs. Green sobbed. "Talking obstruction, evidence tampering. Your mama was just on the porch. They're rough with her." Nora was already moving, grabbing keys and backup drives. "Call Dana's office," Nora ordered. "Tell them exactly what you see. I'm on my way." She hadn't reached the car when her phone detonated with alerts, headlines, push notifications, messages stacking relentlessly. "Delta Force Commander's violent history," one read. "Questions over mental stability." Her fingers went numb as she opened the first article. Her service photo glared back beside twisted, selectively leaked mission details. Classified counterterrorism operations were spun into stories of instability and unchecked aggression. Anonymous sources described her as highly trained, emotionally volatile, potentially dangerous. They even weaponized the loss of teammates as evidence of rage. "Harper, no," Dana called. "They're crucifying you on every channel," Dana said. "Barrow's got friends in defense intel. This leak's coming from somewhere high." "They grabbed my mother," Nora said. 4 units at her house. I know. My people are heading there now, Dana replied. But Nora, this is coordinated. They're trying to torch your credibility before. A thunderous pounding rattled Nora's front door, cutting her off mid-sentence. Through the blinds, Nora saw tripods and microphones sprouting across her yard. News vans double-parked along the quiet street. They're here too, she told Dana. Don't engage, Dana urged. They want a meltdown on camera. The knocking turned to hammering. Camera flashes strobed through windows as reporters pressed against the glass, shouting, "Commander Blake, were you discharged for excessive force? Did combat trauma make you attack those officers? Are you currently under psychiatric care?" Nora moved away from exposed windows, training taking over as she assessed angles, cover, lines of sight. The house felt suddenly like a compromised position under harsh floodlights. Her phone buzzed again. Mrs. Green. "They cuffed her, Nora. Your mama's crying. They won't let me near, saying she destroyed evidence, but she ain't touched nothing." Nora's jaw locked. "Is she hurt?" They yanked her arms. "She keeps asking for heart meds. They won't let her get them." "Stay as close as you can," Nora said. "I'm sending my lawyer." Outside, fists pounded relentlessly. News alerts cascaded, decorated commander or vigilante menace. Violence shadows Blake's career. Sources, heavy casualties under her command. She moved through darkening rooms, clicking off lights to make interior shots nearly impossible. The shouted questions sharpened, designed to cut. Did losing your team push you over the edge? Were the officers right to fear you? Should someone with your training be free, Commander Blake? A text from Dana. Your mom booked at county. Barrow signed the warrant himself. Working bail now. They're framing you as unstable. Don't give them any footage to twist. Nora sank onto the couch in the dark, phone still buzzing. Everything she'd built, every sacrifice, every mission, Barrow was turning it all into weapons against her. Her silence made the reporters shout louder. They hurled questions crafted to wound. Did you enjoy hurting those officers like enemy combatants? How many died under your command? Are you a threat to regular citizens, Commander Blake? She thought of her mother, terrified in a cell without medication, of fallen teammates, names twisted into tabloid fodder, of every resident Barrow had brutalized, convinced he'd never face consequences. The darkness pressed close as Nora sat perfectly still, letting one brutal truth settle. The system wouldn't stop. It would keep coming until she was shattered, or it was. Unless she broke it first. Camera flashes kept strobing, washing the living room in white bursts, but Nora barely registered them. Her mind had already shifted to threat assessment and strike planning. She'd tried working inside the rules, playing defense. That path ended with her mother jailed and her service record smeared. In the quiet, her anger cooled into surgical focus. She'd battled entrenched networks before. She knew how to map hierarchies, isolate command nodes, and tear hostile systems apart. And she'd never lost when the mission truly mattered. Morning light sliced through her bedroom blinds in pale stripes. Nora hadn't slept. Instead, she'd spent the night processing intel, mapping Barrow's web, and highlighting every weak link in red pen. Her mother remained locked up, bail denied on fabricated charges. Outside, only 2 news vans lingered now, but their presence was irrelevant. Nora was done just soaking up abuse. She moved through her routine like it was deployment prep. Cold shower, quick protein, black coffee. Her tactical brain accepted the new reality. This was now a full-scale operation, not just a defense. She loaded the secure briefcase with printed evidence, recordings, timestamps, whistleblower statements, and financial records she'd obtained through quiet favors. Each folder was labeled like a mission packet. The reporters perked up when she stepped outside, voices rising, cameras tracking every movement. She didn't so much as glance their way. They couldn't twist what she refused to give. 20 minutes later, she strode into Dana's office. Dana and Trent were already there, watching a news panel chew over Nora's troubled past and supposed pattern of combative behavior. "They're leaning hard into the unstable vet narrative," Dana said, muting the screen. "Your mother's still held without—" "I know Barrow's next move," Nora cut in. "He escalates until someone dies. So we finish this first." She snapped open the briefcase, spreading files across the desk in neat lines. Private prison corporations showed profit spikes whenever Barrow launched special enforcement. Quotas, specifically targeting certain zip codes. Kickback trails disguised as consulting fees. Trent lifted a sheet, eyebrows rising. "Where'd you get these ledgers?" "Old contacts," Nora said. "Everything cross-checked. Names, dates, amounts, enough to trigger multiple federal probes." She tapped another folder. 3 years of dashcam footage he claimed was lost, mirrored to private servers. Pattern of targeting, escalating force, then technical issues whenever complaints came in. "This is dynamite," Dana breathed. "But dangerous. These companies wield serious political muscle." "And leave detailed paper trails," Nora said. "That's the beauty of greed. It loves documentation." She met Trent's eyes. "That's where you come in." Trent nodded, scanning pages. "This isn't just one bad sheriff. It's institutional corruption." He looked up. "You know, if we hit this, they won't just smear you. They'll try to erase you." "They're already trying," Nora said calmly. "Now we show why. We expose exactly how much money they're making off bogus arrests and trumped-up pleas." Dana spread additional spreadsheets, legal mind whirring. "We'll need serious witness protection," she said. "Several of these deputies will flip if they trust us." "My task force is ready," Trent added, "but timing is everything. If Barrow senses this, he'll burn everything and bolt." "Which is why we make him overreact first," Nora said. She slid out another folder. Surveillance photos of Barrow meeting prison executives in back rooms and off-the-record dinners. "He's already paranoid," she continued. "Once these leak, he'll assume someone close betrayed him. Paranoia makes people reckless. Reckless people make mistakes we can record." "He'll also become more dangerous," Dana warned. "You're threatening his entire empire." "Good," Nora replied. "Let him feel the fear he's lived off. Let him gather every dirty deputy in one place." She checked her watch. "He's probably drafting his response right now," Trent frowned. "You expect a direct hit on you?" "I'm counting on it," Nora said. "This time, we choose the ground." She pointed to a blown-up map, an abandoned impound yard. "No civilians, limited exits. Our surveillance shows his people using it for off-the-books meetings. Perfect staging ground for something spectacularly stupid." "Perfect for an ambush," Trent muttered. "Exactly," Nora said. "We leak my plans through his informants. Make him believe he's got one last shot to bury this before it explodes publicly. He'll bring everyone who can't survive an audit. Every deputy with dirty hands," she continued. Dana shook her head. "Even with your training, that's insane." "What's insane," Nora said, "is letting him pick the battlefield. We need them all committing one more obvious crime together," she added. "You want undeniable conspiracy? I'll serve it to you on a platter. Trent studied her. You're volunteering as bait. I'm finishing the mission, Nora corrected. Your people can't move until intent is crystal clear. I'll give you that clarity. They spent hours tightening contingencies while the sun crawled across the sky. Dana lined up trusted journalists to receive the financial leaks. Trent positioned surveillance teams. Nora walked them through likely formations, choke points, worst-case scenarios, all while checking for any word about her mother. The jail still blocked visits, citing security. Near dusk, sources confirmed movement. Barrow summoning his most loyal deputies, vehicles rerouting toward the impound lot. The trap snapped into place exactly as Nora predicted. Night had fully fallen when Nora parked a block away. Through her windshield, she saw headlights pulled inside the fenced yard. Engines idling. More cruisers rolled quietly in from side streets. She glanced at Trent's last text. Teams in position, still time to wait. Nora didn't reply. She stepped out into the cool dark, boots whispering against cracked asphalt, breath steady. The chain-link fence rattled softly in the breeze. Inside, silhouettes moved between dead cars and shipping containers, checking weapons, arguing in low tones. Barrow had indeed gathered every compromised soul he trusted. Nora slipped through a side gate, walking calmly under flickering security lights. Barrow stood near the center, surrounded by nearly a dozen deputies. The atmosphere felt thick with adrenaline and bad intentions. "You just couldn't quit," Barrow called out, voice echoing off metal walls. "Had to push until we had no choice." Nora's gaze swept the yard. Logging cover, weapons, escape routes within seconds. Containers formed tight corridors. Rusted sedans sat like tombstones. Chains, jacks, and tools littered oil-stained concrete. Every object could be shield or shrapnel. "No one leaves," Barrow announced. "Not until she's resolved." Deputies fidgeted, checking batons, pipes, chains. A few hovered near holsters, hands twitching. Their breath steamed in the cold air. "Walk away now," Nora said evenly. "Anyone leaving stays off the indictment list." A young deputy, barely older than a rookie, shifted a step back. Barrow spun. "Move and your career dies tonight," he snarled. "Everyone here is all in. No backing out now." The kid froze, terror pinning him. Nora filed it away. He'd hesitate later. "Get her!" Barrow barked. The first deputy lunged, heavy chain whistling. Nora stepped inside, twisted his wrist, dropping him screaming. The chain scraped across concrete as she kicked it away. That broke the standoff. Deputies rushed in from all sides, weapons raised. Nora flowed between them, every motion purposeful. A baton whooshed past her head. She captured the arm, flipping its owner into two others. A pipe smashed a container where she'd been standing seconds earlier. She pivoted, elbow driving into another chest. Forced towards stacked containers, she judged distances, then sprinted. One step on a bumper, another on a crate, and she vaulted up, fingers catching the container's edge to haul herself onto its roof. "Get her down!" Barrow yelled. Two deputies scrambled up opposite sides. Nora waited until they committed, then stomped one set of fingers. He shrieked, dropping. She yanked the other forward, sending him skidding overhead. Below, deputies milled, trying angles. Some hurled tools upward. A wrench clanged off metal near her boot. From above, she studied their spread. Corner guards, roaming enforcers, Barrow hanging back, barking orders. A baton-wielding deputy crept up the blind side. Nora heard boots vibrate the metal. She spun, blocking his off-balance swing, then used his momentum to fling him off the roof into a cluster below. "Use your guns!" Barrow screamed, losing control. The snap of holsters releasing carried up. Nora sprinted along the container as shots cracked, sparks jumping where rounds struck metal inches from her legs. At the corner, she seized a dangling chain and swung down, using the container as cover. Underneath, she reclaimed the earlier chain, wrapping it around her fist like a steel gauntlet. Boots approached from both sides, slower now. A baton stabbed under the container, fishing for her legs. Nora hooked it with her chain, yanked, and the deputy yelped as his weapon vanished, another dove forward with a pipe. She redirected the blow into the container's frame. The impact rattled his bones. Curses exploded as others crowded in, trying to corner her in the shadows. Nora rolled out, chain whipping low to snag a deputy's ankles. He crashed face first while she surged up, using him as a shield when two more careened into his back. The fight sprawled through light and darkness. Nora never stayed in one pocket, bouncing between junked cars and containers, forcing them into narrow spaces where they blocked each other's swings. The young deputy finally charged, pipe shaking. Nora disarmed him with almost gentle efficiency, then shoved him away. "Stay down," she said. He obeyed, backing off, grateful for the out. Barrow yelled himself hoarse, watching his best crew crumble. Half his men were already moaning on the ground. Others clutched twisted limbs, suddenly fascinated by the concrete instead of the fight. Nora vaulted onto a wrecked sedan, chain draped from one hand. Two deputies charged from opposite sides. She dropped between them as they swung, weapons smashing into each other's ribs. She swept their legs, leaving them sprawled. Rising in the lot's center, she faced the remaining 8 deputies under buzzing floodlights, breath steady, gaze sharp as they regrouped shakily. "Line up!" Barrow barked. They formed a ragged arc, 2 with pistols, others clutching pipes, chains, rebar. A cracked mirror lay near Nora's boot. She flicked it up, catching it by the edge. "Last chance," she warned. "Drop the hardware and walk." One gunman fired. Nora snapped the mirror up, catching the muzzle flash. The bullet shattered glass, buying her a heartbeat. She slung the jagged shard into his hand. He screamed, dropping the pistol. Chain wielders flanked her. She rolled under their crossing arcs, grabbing a discarded rebar length as she rose. She blocked one chain, pinned another to the ground, yanking both deputies off balance. "Behind you!" Barrow shouted. A baton chopped toward her head. She met it with the rebar. Wood splintered explosively. She reversed grip and hammered the deputy's chest, dropping him gasping. The second gunman tried circling wide. Nora hurled another deputy through a windshield, spraying glass and forcing him to shield his face. She crashed into him before he recovered, stripping his weapon and cracking him across the jaw with its grip. "She's not human!" someone cried. "Shut up and finish it!" Barrow roared. The remaining deputies rushed, panic making them clumsy. Nora pivoted through them, using pipes and chains like levers, turning their strength against them. One by one, they folded, groaning on the concrete. A chain wrapped her forearm. She yanked its owner into her knee, then used his momentum to bowl over another attacker. Rebar whistled past her ear as she ducked and countered. The melee spilled across the yard, but Nora controlled every inch. She vaulted hoods, rebounded off container walls, rolled under wild swings, always emerging somewhere that shattered their formations. Sweat glistened along her brow, but her breathing stayed measured. The deputy's gasps grew ragged. Their attacks lost rhythm, fear seeping in as they realized brute numbers couldn't save them tonight. Two tried a coordinated high-low strike. She redirected one into the other, dropping them in a tangle. Another charged, chain raised. She locked his arm and shut it down with nerve strikes. The last deputy, the one who'd fired first, grabbed his pistol again, hands trembling. Nora closed before he aimed, twisting his wrist until the gun fell. "Please," he stammered. "Don't!" She shoved him away. He bolted into the dark, footsteps fading. Nora stood in the lot's center, surrounded by downed deputies and scattered weapons. Chains, pipes, shattered batons, and broken glass glittered under the harsh lights. Her chest rose steadily. Every movement had been calculated, precise, forceful, but controlled. She hadn't fought from rage. She'd dismantled an armed mob with clinical, professional efficiency. Floodlights hummed overhead as Barrow finally stepped forward alone, steel pipe clenched in his good hand, face twisted beyond recognition by fury and mounting terror. His knuckles glowed white around the metal. He roared and charged, pipe slicing wild arcs. Nora slipped past each swing, feeling the wind of metal barely brushing her skin, letting his own momentum drag him off balance. He screamed at her to stand still. She stepped into his next strike, trapping the pipe against her body, snapping it, and wrenching his arm into a brutal lock as federal agents swarmed, bringing our story to its explosive close. If you felt every second of that fight, tap like and hit subscribe so you never miss what comes next. Meanwhile, I've handpicked 2 more stories you're going to love. Have an amazing day. Abuse of power can find you anywhere. If you're 65 or older, you've watched America change more than once. You remember when a traffic stop could go from routine to dangerous in a heartbeat, depending on the officer and the color of your skin. Commander Nora Blake's story reminds us that abuse of power doesn't care how many medals you earned or how many birthdays you've lived through. She was a decorated Delta Force commander, a woman who'd spent her best years protecting this country. Yet on a quiet Georgia highway, she was treated like a criminal for driving a nice SUV while black and female. Dragged from her car, kneed in the ribs, mocked and threatened with a taser, her service meant nothing to men drunk on authority. Many of you have known that feeling in smaller ways. The clerk who talks down to you, the doctor who doesn't listen, the officer who assumes you're confused instead of concerned. The lesson is harsh but clear. The abuse of power can show up on a sunny afternoon with flashing lights in the rearview mirror, and we must be ready to stand firm and insist on dignity. When corrupt systems fight back, you can't stand alone. Older Americans understand something younger generations are just learning. When you challenge a crooked system, it always hits back harder. Nora didn't just endure one bad stop. She faced a full campaign of retaliation, fake tickets on her door, officers stalking her route, deputies ambushing her in a parking garage, and a smear machine painting her as an unstable veteran on every TV screen. They even arrested her elderly mother on bogus charges, holding back her heart medication, hoping to break Nora's spirit. Many of you know this pattern from history. Civil rights leaders labeled troublemakers, whistleblowers called crazy, everyday citizens told they're imagining things. Nora survived because she refused to fight alone. She brought in attorney Dana Ruiz, a woman who knew the courts, and federal investigator Michael Trent, who understood how to crack a dirty department wide open. For those of us in our later years, the lesson is simple and powerful. When a system turns on you, Reach outward, not inward. Call the lawyer, the honest official, the neighbor, the reporter. Courage matters, but community and good allies can mean the difference between being crushed and being heard. Real justice is a long, hard fight, but it's worth it. If you've lived into your 60s, 70s, or beyond, you know real change never comes overnight. Nora's victory didn't arrive the moment she defended herself on that highway or outfought deputies in the impound yard. Change came, piece by piece. Hidden body mic recordings pulled from the dusty archives, deputies finally breaking their silence, federal agents seizing shredded documents and fake reports, a new judge willing to listen to the truth. In court, the lies unraveled, ugly audio of officers joking about making her squirm, emails targeting certain drivers, patterns of missing dashcam footage whenever people complained. The charges against Nora were dismissed, and the case was handed to federal civil rights investigators. Outside the courthouse, older residents began sharing their own stories of traffic stops and threats they'd kept quiet for years. That is the deeper lesson for seniors. Justice is not just about your personal win. It's about what your stand makes possible for everyone who comes after you. Your children, your grandkids, the young driver pulled over tomorrow night. Even in your later years, your voice, your memory, and your willingness to tell the truth can help bend the system inch by inch towards something better. Friends, after walking through Nora Blake's journey, from that terrifying roadside stop to the hard-fought courtroom victory, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever felt powerless in front of an authority figure, whether it was a police officer, a boss, or even someone in the medical system? How did you handle it, and what do you wish you had done differently? Share your experience in the comments so others can learn from your wisdom. And if you'd like more stories that honor your life experience and fight for real justice, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone you care about.